It's me, D. McClung, Archer Monologues. Monday, Halloween Day. Yes. 10/31/2016. Here's the thing. The trouble with being, say, a watchdog, someone who, excuse me, someone who kind of like a whistleblower or a watchdog, or, well, I'll give you an example. Somebody like Anonymous. One of those groups that supposedly has our well-being at heart, that is a defender of truth and freedom, and a whistleblower on bad guys, you know, like Anonymous and like WikiLeaks. The trouble with people like that and groups like that is that they have a tendency, and I'm not saying every one of them and everything and everybody, excuse me, becomes carried away, turns into a zealot or a fanatic. I do believe that it's human nature for such things to happen. That if you just consider the history of humanity, you find that people who thought that they were speaking for God, for example, became quite fanatical. They became zealots. They became crusaders. They became meglamaniacs. We could name a few in history. You can probably think of some on your own. The problem with becoming, what I want to say here is, when you become like for example, Anonymous, very, very big on being anonymous, which I think is, to be honest with you, I think it's a little bit cowardly to be anonymous. But in this day and age, with all of the tyranny, the terrorists, the bullies, the busybodies going on, well, I'm talking about government here, bad guys, other zealots, oppositional zealots. It's probably wise to try to protect your identity so that the fanatics on the other side of the situation, who are fanatical enough to just freaking kill you, make you disappear, yeah, you probably want to protect yourself a little bit. Sometimes it's just difficult to do your job of whistleblowing or exposing the bad guys, as it were, or the fanatics, or the zealots, or the meglamaniacs, or the tyrants, bullies, and motherfuckers. Without exposing yourself to some degree to the dangers of the real world. Julian Assange, for example. That's a name, I'll tell you. But and he's a character. But to be a Julian Assange, you're going to find yourself in danger, because you've decided let's just say he has decided at some point to become a whistleblower, an exposer of bad deeds and criminality and tyranny and corruption and so on. Another one is Edward Snowden. Both of these men are basically in hiding, and for good reason, because there are people in the world who would kill them or abduct them, torture them, imprison them. Why? Because they've exposed the criminals and the corruption in the world, and they pointed fingers and given evidence to support their accusations. WikiLeaks, for example, has exposed, among others, Hillary Clinton of corruption. Exposed her for being corrupt, criminal, evil, pathetic, disgusting, and certainly exposed her to be unfit for government office, any government office. And I think the evidence is clear on that. There's no question. There's no doubt. Hillary Clinton has committed crimes against Americans, against the Constitution, against the country, committed treason, mass murder, perhaps even genocide. Perhaps even treason. I say perhaps. I mean, like there's any doubt. But Julian Assange has exposed her as a corrupt human being. Well, I kind of like to think she's subhuman, because no decent human being would act the way she's acted. No human being would do the things she's done. Now, here I am talking about Hillary Clinton, and I could talk about various presidents, senators, and other public figures. I could even talk about Julian Assange and say, yeah, he's been accused of something wicked or criminal or whatever. And Edward Snowden has been accused of treason and so on. Well, in a sense, if the government of this country, if the U.S. government, federal government, accuses somebody of treason, then it's basically saying they've committed the crime of betraying the government. Which, and when I use the word treason, I use that word in the application of that word in my sentence would be: a traitor is a person who has violated or betrayed, because that's what the word treason and traitor mean. Is a traitor is someone who has betrayed someone or something. For example, betrayed your country, betrayed your humanity, betrayed the Constitution, betrayed the principles of freedom, betrayed me, betrayed Americans. In the case of betraying in this country. So the word traitor, when I say it, means that the person I'm calling a traitor, I don't mean has committed treason against the federal government, because, I figure if you commit some act that betrays the government, you're, the masters in this country, the mind benders and the freaking matrix, or the status quo, or the establishment, or whatever word you want to use to describe the federal government or any government in this country, state, local, federal, whichever. That's something that I probably should point out. There are people who no, I'll get back to that later. So when I use the word traitor, I mean in the sense or in the definition of the word or application. The word means what it means, and it means betrayal, to put it in simple words. So if you are a traitor to the principles of freedom, for example, it's not quite the same thing as becoming a traitor to your country or your government, which are two different things, by the way. If you betray your government, then that may not necessarily be a bad thing. Let's look at it this way. If you were, let's say, a Russian, and you, let's just go with this one. Let's suppose you were a German and you lived in Germany during the 1930s and 40s, during the reign of terror of the Nazi regimes, and you betrayed Adolf Hitler, and in some way, whatever way that might be, if you betrayed him and, like assassinated him, shot him in the back, then, or even attempted to, and let's say you attempted to assassinate Adolf Hitler before he became powerful and committed all these atrocities against humanity, which is a betrayal of humanity and a crime against humanity. But if you, succeeded in assassinating that bastard, that maniac, that fanatic, that zealot, that meglamaniac piece of human garbage, if you had betrayed him and shot him in the back one day as he was about to become Chancellor of Germany, the Führer, then he would say, hey, you betrayed me, you tried to kill me, and you were one of us, you were my, favorite general, or my girlfriend, or whatever. And he would say, yeah, you betrayed me, meaning, and then you could apply the word traitor to Adolf. I betrayed Adolf, and he killed me. He executed me for trying to execute him, blah, blah, blah. So I went down in the history books of Nazis, if Nazis were writing the history book, and say, Eva Braun, she betrayed Adolf, tried to kill him. I wish she had tried to kill him way before he became Chancellor. I don't know if she even knew him before he became Chancellor. The Führer. But if she had betrayed Hitler and, put some poison in his supper, like back, if she had known him and been close to him back in 1929 or 1931 or something like that, saved the world a lot of grief. But still, Adolf, if he had survived, would have said, yeah, you tried to murder me. You tried to kill me. You betrayed me. You put frickin' poison in my mushrooms. or whatever. And that would be treason to him. She betrayed him. Even though to a world she would be doing a service, a good deed for humanity by murdering the bastard before he could murder millions of people and destroy a lot of country, whatever. So, the word traitor has different applications, but it still means the same thing. I'm not going to get into the mind benders in today's world of, turning English into babble. I've already spoken about that at some point. And if you betray someone individually, it has nothing to do with the Constitution for the United States of America. It has nothing to do with the government. It has nothing to do with betraying your government. It means you've betrayed that individual. In that individual's mind, that person who has been betrayed can say, you committed treason against me. Now, commonly, the ordinary person, an everyday person like you and I, well, I'm not just some guy, so don't get that in your head. Anyway, but it's hypothetically. You and I, as individuals, human beings, we have lovers, friends, we're married, we have wives, husbands, whatever, children, and so forth. And let's say, hypothetically, that you have a wife, if you're a husband, you have a wife, your wife betrays you by having an affair with someone else. Now, I have my own views about that, so I'm not going to get into that part of it, but in the hypothetical scenario here, she has an affair with your best friend. And you can say she betrayed you. People often say that, even though I don't agree with that particular line of thinking, but I'm just trying to go with the flow here and kind of reason with you so that you do understand what I'm saying. But I'll talk about such things as cheating and cheating and the other thing. Cheating. There's another word. I'm going to see in your moment. All right, but you know what I'm saying. You could say that that person betrayed you, but you wouldn't necessarily use the word you wouldn't use the word traitor in that individual scenario. We kind of think of treason as relating to politics and government and that sort of thing. We don't usually consider the word traitor when we're talking about individual, civilian, everyday kind of human being type situations. And I would say that it might be inappropriate to use the word traitor when I'm talking about someone who I am in a relationship with, an intimate relationship with, who cheats on me. Now, I hate to use these words in this scenario because I have I have my ideas about this cheating business, and I think that's bullshit. But I have to kind of stick to the scenario I started with it, so I'll stick with it. And say that, she betrayed me. She betrayed my trust. She betrayed my faith in her. She betrayed my confidence that she wouldn't do such a thing as cheat on me or have an affair with my best friend behind my back, that sort of thing. You wouldn't normally just use the word traitor in that case. You could, but it might seem to be just inappropriate because we usually think of, like I said, traitor and treason is usually applied towards political scenarios. You in the old days when we had kings and monarchs and royalty, like, I'm the King of England, and You betrayed me. You committed treason against the crown. That was pretty much a personal situation, really, in spite of the fact that it was a government system that had a monarch or a king as the head of that government. He took it personal. You betrayed me. You committed treason against the crown. Me, personally. So if you're royalty, then I guess you could use the word treason or traitor if someone does commit some sort of treasonous act against the crown, as it were. But you could use that in an individual situation, but it seems inappropriate. It's not totally invalid, but seems inappropriate. And so the appropriate word is important. So if I'm talking about treason in America today, if I suggest that someone has committed treason, then I, as an individual, am saying I am accusing that person of treason or betrayal of me, perhaps. I believe, for example, Hillary Clinton has betrayed me personally. But not intimately, because, she doesn't even know I exist. You know what I'm saying? But she has committed treason against, for example, the Constitution. She's betrayed the principles of that America stands for and is supposedly living up to, which of course it doesn't. Would I be a fanatic? Would I be a zealot if I suggested that the United States government should live up to the standards of the founding fathers, for example? Or surpass those standards by, for example, by not tolerating slavery? As the fathers did. They tolerated it, and they may have detested it, and they might have had slaves, and then some may not have had slaves. Some people maybe didn't have slaves back in, say, 1776 and so on. If you were back then, in the old days, and you had slaves, to me, that's like you're betraying the principles of freedom, because the principles of freedom are one of those being you don't own human beings. I don't know why that principle wasn't always in the concept of the principles of freedom, or the principles of decent human behavior towards others. Quite common to have slaves back in the old days, but maybe every civilization on the planet at some point had slaves. And I just think it tells you something about the mentality of those people at that stage of human development. So, what I'm saying is that betraying a good guy, you can have treason. You can betray someone. Use the proper words. Basic bottom line here is use the proper word. And sometimes people do not understand or realize that you can use a word in different contexts. Context is important. All right. All right. The Benadryl hasn't kicked in yet. So anyway, when it comes to Snowden, when it comes to Assange, we could say that they betrayed something, or some group of people, by exposing criminals like, in this case, Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Obama. Am I repeating the names here? And the whole system of federal government in this country. But the problem, and now this is what I'm getting at. The problem is that these people who do the exposing, these people who attempt to fight for freedom and attempt to expose the corruption and the criminals in the government, and do so with, I think, with some amount of credibility, seeing as how they could produce evidence to back up their accusations of corruption. I believe that Assange has exposed criminals in the government of the U.S., and some people think he's not doing enough to expose criminals, all of the criminals, but I'm not concerned at this point about Julian Assange exposing the criminality or the corruption in the Republican Party, though someone got pretty mad at me because I didn't really want to get into that. So that wasn't relevant to what I was talking about at the time. I feel bad for Denny Birch. Seemed like a decent fellow, and he blocked me, by the way, apparently because he thought, well, anyway, if you know Denny, tell him I feel bad that he became fanatically upset with me and blocked me, because I thought we had a good thing going there. At any rate, the problem with becoming a whistleblower or the trouble with betraying your government or a government entity like the federal government or someone in particular like Hillary Clinton is that you put yourself at risk, because these bastards will kill you. Hillary Clinton would kill you in a flash. I believe that. I believe that she is responsible for the murder of people. Not making any accusations here in particular. I'm not saying anyone in particular. But there are certain questions about certain situations, like the death of Vince Foster. I kind of question that. Did he commit suicide? And why did he commit suicide? And maybe he was helped a little bit. Maybe some of these other people that died over the past few years were, helped along in their little suicide. That maybe they were, suicided. 2 gunshots to the back of the head with a shotgun? And, let me think. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I think that's physically impossible. So to suggest that someone committed suicide, when, for example, there was no gun. Oh, he shot himself in the head, but, we couldn't find the gun. Wouldn't that be, like maybe a little bit of a clue? I don't think so. At any rate, megalomaniacs as whistleblowers. I don't think that Snowden considers himself like the most important person on the planet. I think perhaps he might be just a bit humble to some degree. I think Julian Assange is somewhat humble. Not always. But the problem with, and for example, Anonymous, and I have had encounters with Anonymous. The trouble with Anonymous is there's a whole bunch of different factions of Anonymous, and I don't know which one of those factions attacked me personally and attacked a lot of innocent people personally. I can't say which faction or who in the organization or disorganization, the group of people who may call themselves or associate with Anonymous, who actually personally attacked me, but they did. Whoever did called themselves Anonymous, so I'm assuming that it's some, Anonymous is therefore responsible. Now I don't know who to name because they're anonymous, because they're cowards, because they attack me in the under cover of anonymity and anonymously. Anonymity. See, I can say the word. And I thought that was rather cowardly of them to accuse me of something that I didn't do or am not guilty of. And that's one of the problems with being anonymous. You get the power to say anything you want. You can accuse people of anything you want. You can say nasty stuff about it. You can lie about them. You can cause all kinds of misery to innocent people. You have power. And you take that, and that power goes to your head, and you think, oh, I'm invincible, or I can say anything I want and get away with it. And you become above the law and become above the principles of freedom. In other words, you become a fanatical, crazy person belonging to a fanatical cult. And is this the first time anyone's called Anonymous a cult? Perhaps not. But the problem with Anonymous is we don't know who they are, therefore we don't know who to hold responsible. If they should become bullies, or tyrannical, or dangerous, or terrorists even. Like the people, whoever they were, who attacked me. Unjustly, erroneously. They basically just lied and slandered me, defamed my character. I would sue them if I knew who they were. Probably wouldn't sue some guy that's in a, and he's running a computer in his basement in freaking Moscow or Romania or someplace, but the cost would be prohibitive. At any rate, but I might send a hit squad to fucking wipe him out. Since he was putting my life in danger, I think I have the right to self-defense. I would defend myself and stop him from destroying me even further. But then again, I don't have the power to send hit squads or assassins to, or avengers to other countries and so on to do my bidding and defend me and seek revenge on those who have caused me harm. That's the trouble with people like Hillary Clinton. She has the power to do that. She has the power. She has control of people who she can send to you and kill you. She can send hit squads to kill Assange. No doubt in my mind. She can have, Edward Snowden assassinated. I'm sure of that. Wouldn't be unheard of. It's been done before. Perhaps even Hillary has done that before. Oh, well, Osama bin Laden, Pakistan, in his house, in his nightshirt, middle of the night. Hit squad, American hit squad. People that were like Hillary was responsible for as Secretary of State. Sent these people, these murdering bastards, into a foreign country, which is a crime, and talking about megalomaniacs and lunatics and fanatic, crazy people. Hillary is fucking insane. That's not even an opinion. That's the evidence supports that fact. Allowing her to run for president is even more insane. But when you're in a position of power and influence where you can do things to hurt other people, innocent people, when you have the power to hurt bad people, that's well, yeah, sure, yay. But if you have the power to hurt bad people, you also probably have the power to hurt good people. And that's where the concept of becoming a fanatic or a zealot in your cause can come into effect. Now, I don't think Edward Snowden has reached that point in his existence where we can say he is a fanatic or a zealot or that he has become a meglamaniac. He made a very brave decision, and he's not anonymous. We know who he is. We just don't know exactly where he is. We kind of think he might be right there. I'm sure the U.S. government knows exactly where he is. And I'll put it this way. I'm going to say this. If the United States government murders Julian Assange or assassinates Edward Snowden or in any way, shape, or form even attempts to come in contact with him for any unsavory reason like capturing him or arresting him or dragging him, kidnapping him and dragging him back to the United States for trial or for putting him in prison or any of that shit. Any harm comes to Julian Assange or to Edward Snowden or anyone like them or even me, for that matter, guess what? I'm going to point my finger at the U.S. government and those fanatics in the government. Fanatics like Hillary Clinton. There are others. Rand Paul, for example, is a zealot, a member of the cult of Christianity, an evil man. And yet, he has some good ideas, but then, you can't just ignore the bad stuff just because there's a couple of good things. As with Edward Snowden, I don't know any bad things. He might have violated some government fabricated law or created international incidents by exposing these bastards. But I don't think you could call him a fanatic. You could call Hillary a fanatic. You could call Rand Paul a fanatic. And I'm sorry about that, Ron. Your son is a fucking bully. And the fact that you aren't reining him in, it tells me you don't really have any control over this bastard. And, by the way, Ron, Daddy, Ron, tell your son, stop sending me fucking emails. I don't want to contribute to his campaign, and I don't like him. I mean, personally, I don't like him. I want him to stop don't send me any emails, don't talk to me, don't do anything. Actually, Rand Paul should just stop being a senator and just go home and back to Texas where he belongs. Carpetbagger in Kentucky, my butt. And, just lay off. Get a job. Don't be a tyrant. Don't be a bully. Don't tell me how to live my life. Don't be a hypocrite either, because Rand Paul is a hypocrite. I don't know about Ron Paul. I can't say he's a hypocrite. I think he's a good man, good intentions, and I've read his books. Some of them, most of them, probably. He's a good guy. But I think Rand Paul is a zealot, fanatic, a religious Christian fanatic. Not very bright. All right, so I'm just saying that if you become like Anonymous, you become powerful, you can do bad things and get away with it to some degree because you're anonymous. Who do I point my finger at when I accuse them of committing crimes against me? And committing, threatening acts against me and threatening me and slandering me and defaming my character and my good name? and trying to cause me harm, cause me personal harm. Don't have any clue who this was. Now, was it the universal anonymous, or was it an individual who was just claiming to be a part of Anonymous? Can you join Anonymous, the organization, without anybody's? I mean, I'm just going to be anonymous like the real anonymous people. I don't think we can say Edward Snowden is anonymous. So anyway, I've tried to point out people in a position where they have the power can abuse the power and become fanatical in their use of that power and cause harm to innocent people and actually influence the world in a negative way. And this, I'm just saying, you should look into this. You should consider this in any situation and ask yourself, is that person being a zealot, a fanatic, a meglamaniac? Is that person taking on a position of too much power, more power than any individual human being should have over the universe, over the cosmos, over the government, over other people, and so forth? Should they? And should we allow it? And what if they do become zealots, fanatics, as is the case with Christians who are, anti-abortion, for example? I think they become insane. I think they lose sight of the principles that they supposedly are supporting and advocating, and they just become dangerous fanatics and dangerous psychopaths. Hillary Clinton is one of those dangerous people. Rand Paul could be labeled as a dangerous fanatic in regards to the abortion thing, for example. It might be all right in other areas like the economy or freedom in regards to free enterprise and so on, but when it comes to religious things and abortion, for example, Rand Paul is a zealot and a dangerous zealot because he's a bully and he wants to be the tyrant. Tells us the government's going to make it a crime and illegal again to have an abortion, and that's just plain fanatical. That's just plain insane and hypocritical, because if you believe in freedom, you don't believe the government should be telling people that they can or cannot have an abortion. You just don't, because that's just part of the frickin' concept. All right, I'm going to let you go. I've done what I had to do. I said what I had to say. Think about it. If you're in a position where you have power, even just over yourself, and you become a fanatic, a zealot, tyrant, bully, maybe you want to reassess your thinking and perhaps reevaluate your principles and come in line with the universal principles of freedom and human decency. And by the way, let's not fall in line with a wannabe Adolf Hitler, even if he's talking about freedom and democracy and so on. Just remember, absolute power corrupts absolutely. All right, catch you later.